Good evening. You're watching the main news on HKIBC. I'm Raymond Yeung. Here are tonight's top stories. All civil servants are set to receive the same percentage pay rise. John Lee insists on a balance between epidemic control and convenience for arrivals. And a 4th of July parade near Chicago ends in bloodshed as a gunman opens fire. The Executive Council has agreed that all civil servants should get a 2.5% pay rise. The amount is lower than what a survey recommended for those in the middle and upper salary bands, but the government is confident that it won't affect morale. Macy Mock reports.
After considering factors such as the economic situation and the cost of living, executive councillors agreed today that all civil servants should get a pay rise of 2.5%. This is good news for junior civil servants because it is more than the 2.04% recommended by the Pay Trend Survey Committee. But it will be a blow for middle-ranking staff who had hoped to get 4.55%, while the committee suggested 7.26% for the upper bracket. For example, chief executive officers who are currently paid $117,580 or more a month would have received $126,116 under the Pay Trend Survey Committee proposal, but will get $5,596 less if the EXCO proposal is approved by lawmakers. However, the new head of the Civil Service Bureau does not think that morale will be affected.
I'm sure our civil service colleagues, as both civil servants and as Hong Kong citizens, will strive their best to help the recovery, to do their best to help Hong Kong to get back to normalcy.
Yeung will meet civil service union representatives tomorrow to hear their views. But there have already been criticism. Feng Chun-chung, chairman of the Civil Servants General Union, expressed his disappointment, saying the government has emphasized economic stability but neglected factors such as morale. Maisie Mock, HKIBC.
Chief Executive John Lee has addressed the issue of hotel quarantine for arrivals in his first press briefing before chairing a meeting of his key advisors. He said there must be a balance between the convenience of travelers and fighting COVID. Joanna Ho reports.
The city's new leader, John Lee, was accompanied by a large contingent when he met reporters before the Executive Council meeting this morning. The group comprised Chief Secretary Eric Chan, Financial Chief Paul Chan, Justice Minister Paul Lam, and the 16 non-official members of the Executive Council. The chief executive said the opinions of his advisors on EXCO would give him insights when he makes important decisions. He expressed confidence in the new convener, Regina Yip, saying she is familiar with social affairs as well as government administration. Yip in turn pledged to help and cooperate with Lee in his 5-year term. Lee then addressed the contentious issue of hotel quarantine. He was asked about speculation that the government may cut quarantine for arrivals to 5 days, followed by 2 days of home isolation. Lee said there should be a balance between convenience for travelers and infection control, adding that there must be a cautious approach.
I have already asked the Secretary for Health to look at the evidence and statistics to see how we can, while on the one hand contain the spread of the pandemic, and at the same time reduce the inconvenience to travelers. One of the areas that he's looking at is how the duration of quarantine should be handled.
Lee did not give a timetable when asked about legislating Article 23 on national security, but said it will be done as soon as possible after conducting a holistic legal research. Joanna Ho, HKIBC.
John Lee has asked lawmakers to focus on 7 policy areas when he attends his first question and answer session in the chamber tomorrow. But some lawmakers are unhappy with the move to limit questions to issues that include President Xi Jinping's speech last week, COVID measures, and housing.
I think the limitation of our question is not necessary. As a legislative member, we need to represent our society, our groups with different voice. So we expect in the coming meeting, our CEO open his mind and listen our questions and openly to discuss with us without any limitation.
Legislative Council President Andrew Yeung said Lee's request is normal practice and permitted under House rules. But Yeung added that he normally allows lawmakers to ask questions outside the focus areas and believes the chief executive will be glad to answer them as well. COVID cases in Hong Kong jumped again today after staying below 2,000 in the previous 2 days. Of the 2,268 new infections, 183 were imported. 6 schools were advised to suspend classes after reporting infections. They include Yeung College, where 23 people caught the virus in the past 2 days. The Sham Shui Po College was asked to suspend in-person lessons for 4 classes for a week. Health officials are checking the spread of the virus in the college before deciding on further action. Meanwhile, the cluster centered on the hot pot foodie restaurant in Kwun Tong has added another case, taking the tally of infected customers to 16. Overseas, a 4th of July parade in a suburb of the U.S. city of Chicago ended in tragedy when a gunman opened fire, killing 6 people and wounding dozens. A 22-year-old suspect was arrested after a brief chase. Sarah Wong reports.
Flags, balloons, and decorations were strewn on the streets of Highland Park in the U.S. state of Illinois after a celebration of liberty ended in a bloodbath. A hail of gunfire disrupted an Independence Day parade in suburban Chicago, sending hundreds of revelers running for their lives in terror. 5 people were killed on the spot, while several children were among those who were rushed to hospital with injuries.
I thought that it was the Navy that was saluting the flag with rifles, but then when I saw people running, I picked up my son and I started running, and I put my son in a dumpster, and he sit there with his dog.
The gunman was believed to have opened fire from a rooftop with a high-powered rifle. After a brief pursuit, police arrested 22-year-old Robert Krimmel III.
He said nothing. He had a very smug look. He seemed to be very calm, cool, and collective.
As grieving families mourn their loved ones, politicians double down on their condemnation of gun violence.
It is devastating that a celebration of America was ripped apart by our uniquely American plague. If you're angry today, I'm here to tell you, be angry.
President Joe Biden told his compatriots to use their ballots in the forthcoming midterm elections to press for change. But for Chicago, the 4th of July will from now be associated with painful memories rather than celebrations. Sarah Wong, HKIBC.
Israel has denied any wrongdoing after U.S. investigators found the Palestinian-American journalist Shireen Abu Akleh was likely killed by Israeli army gunfire. But the United States said there's no evidence that she was deliberately targeted, adding that it was hard to reach a clear conclusion because the bullet that hit her in the head was badly damaged. Abu Akleh was shot in May while covering an Israeli military operation in the occupied West Bank. Israeli Defense Minister Benny Gantz blamed Palestinian forces for putting her in the crossfire. Abu Akleh's family vowed to find the truth and hold the party responsible for her death accountable. Residents of the Australian state of New South Wales are bracing for tougher days ahead as heavy rain worsened a flood crisis.
Well, I mean, it happened in 1986 and 88, then it didn't happen for 28 years. And now it's happened
4 times this year.
This is more than just rain because we had the rain and within not even 24 hours, it started on Friday morning, was it? By Friday night we were under, and it usually takes a week of constant rain and we still don't flood. So this was unbelievable.
The wild weather has inundated hundreds of houses and forced tens of thousands of people to evacuate. New South Wales Premier Dominic Perrottet urged residents to stay vigilant as more downpours are expected. The federal government admitted that a substantial economic impact from the floods will worsen inflation. China and the United States have taken a positive step in thawing their frosty ties after their first dialogue in more than 8 months. Vice Premier Liu He accepted a request for a video call with U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen. Xinhua described the exchange as pragmatic and candid. It also claimed Liu urged Yellen to lift U.S. tariffs on Chinese imports. But a similar statement from the U.S. Treasury Department did not address that demand. The Wall Street Journal reported that U.S. President Joe Biden may roll back tariffs as early as this week. Most analysts believe the move is to primarily tamp down inflation rather than soften pressure on Beijing. Now let's take a look at the markets. The Hang Seng ended the day up by 22 points. To the top 10 active stocks, Tencent was up $1.80, while Wuxi Biologics was up $5.05. Meituan was down $3.50, while Xiaomi was down 48 cents. To the forex trading against the Hong Kong dollar, the euro's at 8.07, pound sterling at 9.40, while the Australian dollar at 5.31. Over in Europe, the London FTSE is currently down 138 points. Australia's central bank has raised interest rates for the 3rd month running and warned of further increases. The Reserve Bank of Australia lifted its cash rate by 50 basis points to 1.35%. The move is aimed at tackling inflation, which is close to 6%. But raising rates mean higher mortgage payments at a time when food and fuel cost more. Finally, in Hong Kong, an exhibition with the message opens on Friday. It features the fossils of dinosaurs, a species that was wiped out from the face of the Earth by climate change hundreds of millions of years ago. Kelly Pang reports.
These bones can send shivers down your spine. The fossils of 8 dinosaurs are on show at the Hong Kong Science Museum in Tsim Sha Tsui for 4 months starting on Friday. Behind me is a skeleton of Allosaurus, a predatory dinosaur which lived around 150 million years ago. Organizers say it is the most complete Allosaurus fossil ever found. There's more than just bones. The use of multimedia projection technology will make visitors feel they are having a close encounter with the savage beasts that roamed the earth, long before human beings appeared.
Right on this beautiful and unique species, we add a lot of technology and special lighting effects to let all the visitors to experience an immersive journey for this exhibition. So we use the technologies, we use the arts, and we use highlights the special part of all these dinosaur skeletons.
The exhibition is part of the events marking the 25th anniversary of the Hanover. Admission is free, but visitors must book online, starting from midnight tonight. Kelly Pang, HKIBC.
Finally, the weather. Tomorrow will be mainly cloudy with occasional showers and thunderstorms. Temperatures will range between 27 and 30 degrees. Thursday will be rainy before it turns sunny on Friday. Now let's take a look at the weather around the world. That's our main news for Tuesday night. Join us for more news at 11. I'm Raymond Yeung. Good evening.